last few years, you have definitely done some very high-profile Hollywood releases. You've definitely made a name for yourself in Hollywood. What has it been like for you over the last few years, bouncing from big project to project?
You know, the excitement makes everything possible. The desire is the key to life, I think, and to enjoyment. If you have enough desire to jump from one project to another, it doesn't seem difficult. And if you enjoy being locked in your studio where you write from dawn to dusk, day after day, then it's all in place. It's exactly where you want it to be. And I always dreamed of writing for great directors. I've been a movie maniac since I was in my teens, and music and cinema have always been two passions that were trying to get together. So when I really decided to be a composer for films, I slowly but surely followed my route. And being here in Hollywood with directors like Stephen Daldry or David Yates or George Clooney is a great joy. It's a great achievement for me.
Well, I'm definitely curious, what is the typical writing process for you? I've spoken to other composers, and some people talk about it takes them a very long time for each piece. Some say they can do stuff in weeks. What is your typical writing process per film, if you have one?
Well, each movie is different, depending on the amount of music to write, the type of score, big orchestra, small orchestra, jazz or whatever, smaller combos. I've been trained through the years to work very fast because I worked for theater, I worked for TV, and I did a lot of short movies, and sometimes I had to write, like for a TV show in France for many, many years, I had to write 5 short movies a week. So when you score 5 short movies a week, it means that you have to write 15 to 20 minutes a week to picture. So that goes, it's a good training to learn how to go fast. And I like the excitement of the short deadline. I think it pushes you into the film. You're the last one to see the film usually and to be involved, but you're fresh, totally fresh. So when you see the film, once you've found the communication and the path that you want to follow under the direction of the director, you can just dive into the film, and then it can go very fast. I tend to not like to have too much time. I prefer being really focused deeply. That's why I can do many films, because I go fast. I go fast, but I just go fast because of course I'm experienced, but I spend long hours detailing everything. So,
well, if I may,
like Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close was only 3 weeks. That was the deal. There was 3 weeks. The question was, Alexandre, can you do it? Can't you do it? And at that point, physically, mentally, I thought I could do it. It was tough. It was very tough. Because then, when I finish writing, I go on stage and I conduct the orchestra, so it's not over. I still have to be in shape physically. It's very demanding. So I just felt that I could do it, and I did it. Would I have done it again the next month? I'm not sure. Because after this kind of effort, you need to rest a little bit. That doesn't mean you don't work, but you don't have to do. You try not to do another deadline of that kind.
Well, I was going to ask you specifically, I had heard you came onto the project quite late. When did you actually get the call that said, hey, are you interested in doing this? Was it October, November?
No, November, sometime in November. I think, yeah, I can't remember now, but if it was October. Anyway, I made a trip to New York to see the film and to meet with Stephen Daldry, and came back to Paris and started writing, and there was 3 weeks left.
Which is, I mean, this is not the normal course of action with movies, especially ones that are going to be premiering in December for critics and whatnot.
Yes, and with an hour and 15 or more minutes of score, yes, of orchestral score. But again, I tend to feel that the more I write, the better I become. I don't mean as a man, I don't know, but as a composer, I can feel that I'm improving each time I do a new score. So I guess doing this one, I could feel that I would be going to territories which I would not have yet been. I knew that I could bring in a great pianist, Jean-Yves Thibaudet, who's a fantastic classical star. He's playing at the Disney Hall today and tomorrow, I think. He happened to be in New York the very same days. And talking about somebody who's busy, you see, he was in Vienna the day before we went to New York. Before coming to New York and record with me, he had to go to Boston for a rehearsal. Then he came to New York. We recorded 2 days, 1 day and a half. Then he had a concert in Boston, so he had to go to Boston. Then come back the next day to some of the dubs. But in the evening he wasn't free because he was playing out at Carnegie Hall. And the next day he came back for a couple of hours, and then he flew back to Europe because he had a concert in Amsterdam. So you see, how does he do? Desire is the only way, and excitement.
That's, by the way, insane. When you went to the screening in New York to see it, at that moment, was it, I'm going to see the movie and then make a decision? Or did you sort of know before the screening, I think I want to do this?
Well, you know, I didn't read the script. What I knew is that I wanted to work with Stephen Daldry because I was really impressed by his filmmaking of the 3 movies I saw, Billy Elliot, Hours and Reader, which also had a great value in which the music was used. And so I was actually hoping that one day Stephen Daldry would call me. So I think 50% of the journey was already made, and that's also, again, a matter of desire. There's some directors that you, or some projects that appeal to you. Could it be the cast? Could it be the producers, the director, the storyline, whatever it is? There's something that, and the best is, of course, the combination of every element. Sometimes you have to be faithful to your directors or your producers because they've been faithful to you. So it's all a matter of combination. And so 50% already was there by having Daldry and Scott Rudin involved because they're, you know, great filmmakers.
I completely agree with you. Typically speaking, how much do directors leave you alone to come up with your vision of their film? Or do some directors say to you, I'm thinking about this kind of music, or I'm thinking about this kind of music? Could you sort of talk about the collaboration, because you've worked with, as you've mentioned, some great directors over the last number of years?
It depends. Some directors are like Roman Polanski. There's no temp track. Doesn't want to use a temp track. He thinks his movie is ready when his movie is ready. He doesn't need the music to help the picture. He will cut the film, and when the film will have its shape and its rhythm, he can show it to me. And he will say, I'd like some energy, I'd like some darkness, words, but not music. He never, in the 3 films we did, never mention any music, existing music. And he's very savvy and he loves music, he listens to a lot of music. Some other directors, they need the temp track to know where they're going, because there's an uncertainty in how to communicate with the composer. It's sometimes difficult to find the words when you're not musical. And my job is also to create these bridges with directors and help them express what they need to express. The best combination is, of course, no temp track, a director who trusts you, but still who has a strong point of view of where the music should be playing. Polanski again, let me mention Roman Polanski again, because one of my favorite scores of all time is Chinatown, that Jerry Goldsmith did for Polanski. And the placement of the music in Chinatown, the way it is coming and going, the entry and the outs are just phenomenal. And working with Roman, I learned about that, because I had ideas, and he would say to me, no, let's try it again, let's try somewhere else. And in fact, as a director, he prefers when the music prepares you to the scene. than playing the music in the scene. So if there's tension in the scene, he played the tension of the scene before. So when you arrive to this scene that is meant to be more tensed, the music would have done the job before, and it's done. You're ready to be moved or stressed. And some other directors, they have, like George Clooney, very precise. He used some temp track, but he always told me, this is a temp track from the same film, and I know it's not right, but at least there's some, it shows that it's a thriller, and it shows that it can be better. But he had a very precise idea of where to start, where to end. And then it's just a matter of providing ideas. My job is also to provide ideas and my input in the film. Again, I think I'm a filmmaker like any collaborator in the film, could be the DP or the editor. And I try to help the film be better. That's all I'm there for. And with Daldry, for example, at the end, coming to this last film, he was very, he's very deep involved in the emotions of the film. So he knows where and how bring the composer to a higher level, to challenge himself. And that's also a very good thing. You put yourself in danger. You know, you try to. If you can go straight, well, just go a bit off the path, and maybe there's a better view there.
How do you know typically when you nailed it? Is there just a moment where you hear it and you say, "This is it," or are you one of these constant tinkerers that always thinks I can adjust it, make it better? What about this?
Well, that's why the days are too short, the nights too short also, is that I like I go on and on obsessively about every detail. And I actually like when a director is also as detailed as I am. And when I feel that the way he wants more detail or more accuracy is right, when I feel that, I'm totally happy to redo, destructure, restructure. There's this great line by Louise Bourgeois, I do, I undo, I redo. And you always have to keep in mind, if you want to be an artist, that's the way to do it. As long as it's for a good purpose. If it's just by perversion, that's not the best way to do it. But I like the idea that we've tried every option, you know, in an environment that we have chosen of texture, of sounds, of rhythm, and maybe in that world there's corners we have not explored. If it's exploring it now, that's not very interesting. But once we've decided of an area to dig, it's good to dig even deeper.
What is the most amount of time of all the scores you've done? What's the longest score you've worked on to make it quote unquote, you know, the best? What's the longest amount you've worked on something for a movie?
I think it's Harry Potter, the last Harry Potter.
No, for part two.
For part two, yeah. Part one was long too, but I think part two was a bit longer. There was a huge amount of music and a huge challenge again, you know, a huge pressure to be delivering the best score, but also the best sense of dramaturgic arc to the film, and such a great expectation from every kid around the world,
including the journalist sitting across from you.
So that was, and John Williams, the iconic composer, had started the series. I was ending it. He was my idol when I was 15. You know, that you have to be at your best.
Well, I was going to say, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is easily one of my favorite films of 2011. I think everyone nailed it. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Getting back into that being specific, talk maybe about one of the themes of the film that you wanted to explore, or just talk a little bit about crafting that music. It's fantastic, and obviously fans love the movie.
I think the main element in Deathly Hallows Part 2 was the way we could have Lily, Harry Potter's mother, haunt the whole story, ghost the whole story. And we decided rather early with David Yates that it would be a good idea to have a voice reminiscing, recurring here and there. A voice and a melody attached to this voice. And we tried to find a voice that was really special and unexpected. And I found this fabulous Japanese singer, Mai Fujisawa, who's not a beginner, because she sang since she was a child on all the soundtracks of her father, who's Joe Hisaishi, a fantastic Japanese composer who wrote all the Kitano's movies and the Miyazaki's animation movies. So she has a very pure tone, incredibly pure, and she's a true musician. So she understands, when you do it takes after takes, she can change a little bit there, a little bit there. She can adjust like a real professional. But she sounds so incredibly pure. That's the only word I can think of. That when I played her voice to David Yates and to David Barron and David Heyman, the producers, they were all in shock how beautiful the voice was. So that's the element, I think, that's become the main object through the film to keep us through the story.
I definitely want to talk about a few of the other films you've done in the last few years. I'm a huge fan of Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love the music in that. A Prophet. There's many others. But I definitely have to ask you, if I'm not mistaken, you're working with Wes Anderson again on Moonrise Kingdom.
Yes.
Talk about your relationship with Wes and what can fans look forward to?
Well, I've completed that score in New York just before Christmas. Wes is a very special artist. He's got an incredible world of his own that belongs only to Wes Anderson, and that's already a great point, because so many directors are just another director, following the path of a precedent director and trying to copy it. He doesn't try to copy anyone, it's just his own world, even though he's a great cinephile and he knows a lot about the history of cinema and the techniques of cinema. His stories are always very funny and strange, and this one is particularly incredible. The cast is mad.
I have to ask you, how much do you know about his movies before you step in to start composing? Because I would imagine, as you said, I agree with you, he's a unique voice in cinema. And I would imagine, even for you, you want to see the movie for the first time without knowing too much, just as a movie fan.
No, I knew Rushmore, I knew the Tenenbaums, and I had seen also Life Aquatic and Darjeeling. So I know his filmography very well. And actually, I think it helps the composer to communicate when he knows the ground on which the seed of the director has grown and become what he's become. This one, Moonrise Kingdom, will be very, very surprising for everyone. It's very special. It's an incredible story of two kids, and I can't say more. But if you look at the cast already, it's a bomb.
Well, what's interesting about Wes is that he is really great at using specific songs that a lot of people have not heard. He mines. I don't know where he gets his music, but he's just great, and he mixes it with a great score. So could you sort of talk about that dynamic a little bit?
Yeah, he's got a great music supervisor, Randall Poster, who also with him, kind of scouts and looks for strange versions of any kind of tunes. And also, Wes likes that the score is really intricate, organically to the picture. It's not just a wash of emotion or a wash of chases or a wash of something. No, it's got to be really connected to the inner soul of the film. And we spend long hours together finding the exact sound or orchestration that will be perfectly matching a face, a landscape, a movement, a camera move. And when we worked on Fox, I knew already that there were a few moments of existing music. So you just have to be smart and try to match with them as well as you can in terms of the chords, of the keys that will link the energy, the tempi, so that when your score comes in, it's not killed by the fast tempo of the previous existing music, or all these kind of things where you use your craft. But working with Wes is a very special experience.
I would imagine, as you compose a lot of music that does not see the light of day. Do you? And I apologize if I don't know the answer, and if it's a common answer, I apologize. Is there a place where a lot of the music you've done that has not been heard is available, or is it sort of just sitting in the vault waiting for the right day of the ultimate box set?
Yeah, there's a few scores which were not released here, or in France, or in England. There's a few films through the years. I hope to be working on a golden album very soon. I tend to be a bit humble about that, and I've seen people having their biographies and their golden album when they were 30, and I always feel it's a bit early.
I completely understand.
So I took my time. It might be this year, it might be next year, I don't know. But I'm thinking about bringing to the ears of some crazy film soundtrack anoraks, some rare recordings of mine.
I definitely just have to ask you about, because there's a lot of Twilight fans out there, you obviously composed New Moon. What was that, were you aware of this whole Twilight phenomenon when you got involved in it, or was it just Chris called you up and said, hey, I'm doing this movie, would you like to be involved?
Yeah, it's exactly that. Chris called me, and I had a very nice relationship with Chris. He's a very close friend, and he's a dear man, and I like him very much, and he's a very good artist. And I was really happy when he called me, because we had a rough time on Golden Compass a few years before. Not he and me, but the project itself was a bit tumultuous, to say the least. And we had really the desire of working together in a more comfortable way. And he was fantastic. We actually had a lot of liberty on this score, a lot of freedom, and he was always very enthusiastic about how the music can elevate a scene and emotions. And I think we worked really closely, and it went very fast. Actually, I think I wrote that in a month or something. Really fast.
Sounds to me like you write a lot of scores in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's about my average.
I'm learning this about you.
Yeah, otherwise I couldn't do 8 or 10 movies a year.
I literally looked at the IMDb profile, and just because before I sit down with anyone, I study what you've done, I try to research, and I was dumbfounded at the amount of movies you've done since '05, and especially '09, 2010, this year, or last year now.
Yeah, I get better, so I can write faster, I guess. And also, you know what? I get more and more great projects.
I've noticed that too.
And they inspire you even more. I'm like a child in a candy store when I'm offered a movie. I dream of it. I sleep with it. It's night and day.
I definitely have to ask, is there a project that you've been asked to do that for whatever reason, like a high-profile project, that you're like, I'm not doing this? Have you been offered certain things that you've turned down, you know what I mean? That maybe people would be surprised to learn.
Of course. Some movies, they don't resonate with you for various reasons. It could be cultural, because I'm from Europe. It could be ethically, politically. There's things that I would not do. I'm not interested. I'm not, running after big action movies. It's not my cup of tea. I can do action. I've shown in several films that I can do action sequences. But a movie only action-driven, I'm not sure I'm going to kill my mother just for that. But also it could be the cast that I'm not excited about. It's very strange. I know it's a bit strange because I'm only the composer, but I'm going to spend long hours in my studio, locked in, watching at people on my screens, and I want to be with good people. Even if I don't know them and they don't know me, I'm going to spend time with them, and I want to be, as I say again, excited. I want to be moved. I love movies so much that I want the movie to be mesmerizing and the performances to be mesmerizing.
Oh, I completely understand. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, you have not really done any quote-unquote comic book movies.
Nope.
Is that a genre that you're not excited about? Have you been asked?
I've been asked, maybe I've been asked, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's also sometimes schedule issues, that you can't do everything.
Sure.
But I wasn't raised with Batman and Superman.
You were raised with Tintin, though.
I was raised with Tintin, yeah, absolutely, Tintin, and Lucky Luke, which was a cowboy, and Asterix.
Of course, Asterix.
But I was not raised with the Marvel series. Of course, I know them, but so maybe that's not part of my fantasy. Maybe I should learn how to love them.
What is a score that you did not write in the last year or two that you absolutely loved and wish you had done it? One of those kind of things.
I like The Hours a lot. I think it was a great score. I loved what Danny did on Milk. I think that was really a great score and very different from his big Marvel films.
Speaking of Marvel.
That he does so well, so brilliantly. He's a fantastic. I also liked his score for Alice. I think it was a beautiful score. Danny Desplat again. I loved what Thomas Newman did on Revolutionary Road. I think it was a beautiful score. Going back, I could say that Javier Navarrete's score for Pan's Labyrinth was stunning.
That's one of my favorite films of that year. That movie's amazing.
Way back, John Williams' Geisha. John Williams' Catch Me If You Can, which should have won everything, I think. Even though there was many songs, his opening titles is Forever.
His opening titles in Catch Me If You Can are fantastic.
It's Forever. Just for that, he should have had the Oscar.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Especially with the use with that, with the way the cartoony kind of thing.
Done. Genius.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So there's many scores I can.
I'm running out of time with you, but I definitely have to ask: what is lined up for you in 2012? Now that we've just entered the year.
Well, there's movies in Europe, in Italy, in France. There's a big score for DreamWorks.
Could it be Lincoln?
Nope.
Oh.
No, I think that's John Williams.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
And
the arch nemesis. I was kidding.
I mean, of course. I mean, how many directors have made so many movies with the same composer? So Steven Spielberg, for that, to me, is a god because he's kept his composer through the years. Very few have done that. I can think of Philippe de Broca in France, who did that with Georges Delerue. I can think of Truffaut, who did that with Georges Delerue also, even though sometimes he changed to work with Antoine Duhamel. But there's not so many. Tim Burton with Danny.
Yeah, they have a very strong relationship.
So that's a rare. I'm doing my 6th movies with Jacques Audiard, who did The Prophet this year. But it's only 6. But it's actually it's almost on 18 years now, so it's a while.
So how far into 2012 have you booked yourself up?
It goes beyond 2012. We've got many other projects in 2013 already.
Really?
Yeah. I've got concert pieces to write and many other things to do.
As long as you're not slowing down at all.
Slowing down is tricky.
What's interesting, my last question for you, if I'm not mistaken, it was Dark Knight Rises where there were, I'm forgetting some names right now, where people have been paired together, composers.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked with someone else? How do you find collaboration with another composer? Is it something you can do, not do?
Let me just mention again Fellini and Rota, of course, and Visconti and Rota, who wrote very different scores for Visconti or for Fellini, and Pasolini and Ennio Morricone. Or Giorgione. I've collaborated on two scores only in the past. Once on Mr. Magorium with Aaron Zygmunt, and once on My Week with Marin with Conrad Pope. It happened that on the first one, the movie was pushed almost 6 months a year, and I was stuck, but I had written the themes, so Aaron put the themes together and completed the score. And for Marilyn, My Week with Marin, it's the same story. I wasn't free in the summer to do the score, and due to my relationship to Harvey Weinstein, we did many movies together through the years, I offered to write the main title, the main theme, Marin's theme, and asked Conrad, now my dear friend Conrad, who's a fantastic composer and orchestrator, to complete the score.
On that note, I need to wrap with you. I'm just going to say congrats on your year and all the last few years. As I said before, big fan of your work. Thank you for giving me so much time.
Thank you.
Well, if I may...
like Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close was only 3 weeks. That was the deal. There was 3 weeks. The question was, Alexandre, can you do it? Can't you do it? And at that point, physically, mentally, I thought I could do it. It was tough. It was very tough. Because then, when I finish writing, I go on stage and I conduct the orchestra, so it's not over. I still have to be in shape physically. It's very demanding. So I just felt that I could do it, and I did it. Would I have done it again the next month? I'm not sure. Because after this kind of effort, you need to rest a little bit. That doesn't mean you don't work, but you don't have to do. You try not to do another deadline of that type of music to write, the type of score, big orchestra, small orchestra, jazz or whatever, smaller combos. I've been trained through the years to work very fast because I worked for theater, I worked for TV, and I did a lot of short movies, and sometimes I had to write, like for a TV show in France for many, many years, I had to write 5 short movies a week. So when you score 5 short movies a week, it means that you have to write 15 to 20 minutes a week to picture. So that goes, it's a good training to learn how to go fast. And I like the excitement of the short.
In the last few years, you have definitely done some very high-profile Hollywood releases. You've definitely made a name for yourself in Hollywood. What has it been like for you over the last few years, bouncing from big project to project?
It's the excitement makes everything possible. The desire is the key to life, I think, and to enjoyment. If you have enough desire to jump from one project to another, it doesn't seem difficult. And if you enjoy being locked in your studio where you write from dawn to dusk, day after day, then it's all in place. It's exactly where you want it to be. And I always dreamed of writing for great directors. I've been a movie maniac since I was in my teens, and music and cinema have always been two passions that were trying to get together. So when I really decided to be a composer for films, I slowly but surely followed my route. And being here in Hollywood with directors like Stephen Daldry or David Yates or George Clooney is a great joy. It's a great achievement for me.
Well, I'm definitely curious, what is the typical writing process for you? I've spoken to other composers, and some people talk about it takes them a very long time for each piece. Some say they can do stuff in weeks. What is your typical writing process per film, if you have one?
Well, each movie is different, depending on the amount, what deadline. I think it's it pushes you into the film. You're the last one to see the film usually and to be involved, but you're fresh, you're totally fresh. So when you see the film, once you've found the communication and the paths that you want to follow under the direction of the director, you can just dive into the film, and then it can go very fast. I tend to not like to have too much time. I prefer being really focused deeply. That's why I can do many films, because I go fast. I go fast, but I just go fast because of course I'm experienced, but I spend long hours detailing everything. So